we will study incomplete dominance, because remember when we studied about Mendelian inheritance, we had established that one character is completely dominant over the other, and how you would decide the phenotypic ratios or the phenotypes based on the information that you had about the dominance of one character over the other. That means if you knew that the green color is dominant over yellow color, and you knew that the genotype is capital G and small g, so that the option for green and yellow is there, but you know that one is completely dominant over other, you could conclude that the genotype would lead to green color phenotype. So this genotype gives you this phenotype. But with non-Mendelian inheritance, there are situations of incomplete dominance, co-dominance, or more than one allele controlling one character. For example, here you had two alternate options. Here, with multiple alleles, you would have more than two options. And polygenic inheritance. So non-Mendelian inheritance would not follow the Mendelian law of inheritance, and the alleles are not completely dominant over each other. The first situation is snapdragon flower. In the parental generation, you have homozygous parents which have both same alleles. So red phenotype is a result from capital R, and white phenotype is again a homozygous condition, but it is homozygous white, so both WW. You would notice that we are not representing them as capital R and small r, because we want to establish here that it's not like red is dominant over white or white is dominant over red. So let's see what are the phenotypes in the next generation. Now when you cross these two parents, the F1 generation is obtained, and if you make a cross from this father which has two gametes produced and this mother which again has two gametes produced, the cross will give you R and W, R and W, this R and W, and this R and W. Now you clearly know when you have two R's it will be red, when you have two W's it will be white. But if you have one R and one W, and W is not dominant over R and R is not dominant over W, then what will be the phenotype? So neither R nor W are completely dominant. So you get a blend of the two characters. You will get a blend of red and white, which is pink. Now the genotype you will see is 100% heterozygous, which is R and W. They are not same, they are different, they are heterozygous. And the phenotype is a blend. It's not red, not white, so it's not one of the two options, but it is a third character, which is a pink color. Now if we take these pink flowers, we know that the pink flowers will be a result of a genotype which is one R and one W, and if you cross them in the F2 generation, you have two kinds of gametes from each parent, because this has both R and W here, and this has both R and W, which is here. And if you make a cross, you would have red and red coming again, so two R's give you red, and you have W and W here, so two W's give you white. That's clear. But when you have one red and one white, you get a blend of characters which is pink, and here also you have one red and one white, you have a blend of character which is pink. So let's look at the F2 generation ratios. So genotypic ratio is you have one RR, one WW, and two RWs. So when you had complete dominance, this would give you one character and this would give you the recessive character. This will give you dominant and this will give you recessive character. But here there is no complete dominance. It's an incomplete dominance. So the phenotypic ratio is again 1:1:1. It's same as the genotypic ratio here. So when you had complete dominance, your phenotypic ratio would be 3:1 because one character would dominate over the other. And in complete dominance, phenotypic ratio is 1:2:1. So you would have one red, one white, and two pinks. Now let's try to understand this with an example. Here you are told that it's a snapdragon flower which exhibits incomplete dominance. So the condition is given to you already. Now you have a red flower which is crossed with white flower and it produces pink flower. Now the question asks you to cross two pink snapdragon flower. Two pink snapdragon flower would be RW with RW because we know the pink is a result of RW and RW. And when you make a square, from this parent you get gamete RW and from this parent you get the gamete RW. So here you would have RR, RW, RW, WW. So your genotypic ratio will be RR, RW, WW in the ratio of 1:2:1, and phenotypic ratio will be red is to, because in genotypic ratio you have to talk about the letters, but in phenotypic ratios you have to talk about the character. So it's red, pink, and white in the ratio of 1, which is this. Pink will be 2, this and this, and 1 white, this. Now that we understand incomplete dominance, let's look at another kind of non-Mendelian inheritance, which is codominance. In incomplete dominance, you saw that you would get a blend of two characters, which is red plus white would give you pink. Here, codominance, you don't get a blend of colors, you don't get a blend of characters, but you get both the characters together because they are codominant, they coexist with each other. Let's see how that happens. Now here you have a homozygous parent which is crossed with another homozygous parent. So this is homozygous red, which has both RR alleles, and homozygous white, which have both white WW allele. Here again you would notice that we are not using capital and small letters because there is no establishment of dominance. So we don't know if red is dominant over white or white is dominant over red. In F1 generation, you will first get the gametes from both these parents, and then those gametes will fuse with each other. They will come together, and then we will decide the genotypic and phenotypic ratios. So first you have gametes from this parent, and then you have gametes from this parent, and when they are crossed, you get this and this, this and this, this and this and this and this. So they all end up having the same genotypic ratio. So genotypic ratio is in all these is RW 100%, but what is the phenotypic ratio? All of these have coexistence of red and white coat. So this gives you a patchy appearance where both red and white are existing, and this character is called a Rouen cattle coat color. So all of them will give you a mixed phenotype, which is a Rouen pattern of coat. If we take these Ron cattle and cross them, we know that Ron is a result of R and W coming together. They will produce F2 generation from F1 generation. First of all, they will produce gametes. Here they are producing their respective gametes. And when you cross these gametes, you will see when R and R comes together, you get back to the parental kind, which is red coat color. And when W and W come together, you are back to the parental character, which was white coat color. And when you have a combination of R and W, you will again have Rouen coat. So the genotypic ratio is 1 RR type, 1 WW type, and 2 RW type. And their phenotypic ratios are also just like incomplete dominance. It is 1:2:1, where 1 red, 1 white, and 2 Rouen from RW genotype. Now let's understand this with an example. We know that in cattle, coat color shows co-dominance between the red and white. This is the condition that's already given to you, that when red and white cross, the RW will give you Rouen. So in these kind of questions, you'll always be given a condition and then you will be asked to make a cross. Now you have to make a cross of Rouen, which is RW, with white coat cattle. And you know that Rouen comes from RW and white comes from WW. If you make a cross of these two, this parent will give you RW gametes and this will give you WW gametes. So a combination would be this. So if you have to talk about genotypic ratio, it will be RW WW in the ratio of 0:2:2. Or you can also just write, you don't have to even write this, you can just say RW and WW are in the ratio of 2:2. And then what is the phenotypic ratio? There are no reds, there are 2 Rouen and 2 whites. So there are 2 Rouens and 2 whites. So the ratio of Rouen to white is 2:2 or 50-50%. Now let's talk about the multiple alleles in the human blood group. So human blood group is a result of multiple allele and a combination of co-dominance. So two kinds of factors are influencing this. One, you would have more than 2 alleles and then there will be co-dominance. There is no complete dominance of one allele on the other, and we'll see how. Okay, let's look at the gene and alleles related to the blood group type. There are 3 alleles, IA, IB, and I, which are related to the blood group type. Now, these alleles determine what kind of antigen will be present on these blood cells. So if you have IA, you will have antigen A. And if you have IB, you will have antigen type B. And if you have small I, there is no antigen and the blood group will be O. Another condition that's given to you is that IA is co-dominant with IB. So if it is IA and IB, there is co-dominance, so the character will be AB blood type. If you have IA and I, it's different. IA is dominant over small I. So this will give you blood type A. Again, IB is dominant over I. This will also give you blood type B. But if you only have I's, only then this recessive allele will be expressed and give you the character of O type blood. So capital letters are representing the alleles which are codominant, and the small letter is representing the allele which is recessive. So what we got from this concept is, one, there are more than one allele. There can be IA, IB, or I, not just two. Second is there is codominance between IA and IB, but both IA and IB are completely dominant over small I. So let's look, when are these kind of blood types possible. An A type blood is possible with when both homozygous condition or a heterozygous condition with small I. Blood group B is possible with homozygous dominant condition or with heterozygous with small I. Blood group AB is possible with heterozygous IA-IB because there is codominance, and blood group O is possible in the homozygous recessive only when two small i's are present. Now let's look at one of the crosses of the blood types. Here we are looking at the inheritance of blood group type. Let's say one parent is A type and the other parent is B type. Although A type is also possible from IA and B is possible from IB, but here we are taking a heterozygous situation to make this cross a bit more interesting. So this parent will produce these two kind of gametes and this parent will produce these two kind of gametes. In their generation, when IA and IB come together, the blood type would be AB type. When IB and small I come together, this is completely dominant over the other, so this will be blood type B. It's not BO, it is only B because B is dominant over O. When you have IA from here and I from here, you have blood type A because IA is dominant over I. It's not AO. Only these two are codominant and you end up getting AB type. Only when you have homozygous recessive alleles coming together, you will get type O blood. So if you have to talk about the genotypic ratio of this cross, then it will be IA-IB, IA and small I, IB and small I, and two small i's in the ratio of 1:1:1:1. And the overall phenotypes that you are getting from this cross are one AB type, one A type, one B type, and one O type. That means if this kind of genotype is there in father and this type of genotype is there in mother, there is a possibility that they can have either an AB blood group in their child or a B blood group in their child or A blood group in their child or O. So all four types of blood groups are possible in the children when the parents have this and this kind of genotype. The next non-Mendelian inheritance we are going to study is the polygenic inheritance. The example here is the darkness of the skin. So till now we have studied that there is one chromosome come from mother, one chromosome that comes from father, and there is one segment of gene that decides which one is dominant and which one is recessive, and then you get one kind of character. But here you would have polygenic inheritance. There are more than one gene and pairs of alleles, because for one gene you would have usually two alleles, but just now we have studied in the blood group type that for one gene you can have three alleles. But let's say one gene and two alleles. For polygenic inheritance, you would have more than one gene and then multiples of alleles. So darkness of skin and most of the characters of human beings, like the hair color, eye color, and many other characters, are inherited through the polygenic inheritance. It's not only option A or option B, but you have a range of color or range of characters possible in the population. So, unlike single gene inheritance, inheritance of characters like skin color is controlled by multiple genes. It can be up to 3 or 5 genes that control the character. And usually there are 2 alleles for one gene, but there can be more than one allele for gene. So you can imagine how complex it gets. Then how would you determine what will be the phenotype? It will be A, B, C, D. So usually it is a cumulative effect. You see how many dominant genes are there, and it's a cumulative effect of number of genes that gives you a particular character. So here we'll look at the additional effect of these. Let's take a rough example that there are 3 genes involved in the inheritance of skin color, and 3 genes have 2 alleles each. Now, allele is just a DNA fragment, and DNA produces protein, right? And here the protein produced is melanin. So melanin gives you skin color. More melanin, more is the darkness of the skin. Now let's say this allele is dominant. That means it produces melanin. And this is recessive. It does not produce melanin. This is dominant. It produces melanin. This is dominant, produces melanin. This is recessive, does not produce melanin. This is recessive, does not produce melanin. So 3 out of 6 alleles are producing melanin. If there were 4 out of 6, the skin would be more dark. If there are 2 out of 6, the skin will be less dark. So how many alleles will end up producing melanin will give you a quantification of the darkness of the skin. So usually you will get a bell curve distribution. That means here you have a lot of recessive alleles, and here you have lot of dominant alleles. All 6 are dominant, and in the middle you have some recessive and some dominant. So most of the population will lie in this range. There will be few people who have very light skin, few people who have very dark skin, and majority of the people will have the median or the middle range of the color. Let's look at this chart. This chart is telling you that dominant, indicated by capital D, will produce melanin, and recessive does not produce melanin. Okay, but further, this character is controlled by 3 different genes. So dominant form of these 3 different genes will produce melanin, and recessive form of these 3 different genes will not produce melanin. Now let's quantify how many dominant or recessive allele you have here. Here 6 out of 6 are dominant. Here 5 out of 6 are dominant because this is recessive. Here 4 out of 6 are dominant because these 2 are recessive. Here 3 on 3 are dominant. Here 3 on 6, and here 2 on 6 are dominant. Here 1 out of 6 are dominant, and here 0 out of 6 are dominant. So here 6 alleles are producing melanin. Here only 5, here only 4, here only 3, only 2, only 1, and 0. So if there is a lot of melanin produced, the skin will be darker. If there is less melanin produced, there will be less darkness of the skin, and you can see that the darkness is reducing as the amount of capital D's are reducing. So that means as the capital D's are reducing, amount of melanin produced is also reducing, and the darkness of the skin is also reducing. And this is how you can get a quantitative analysis of inheritance of a character when it is controlled by multiple genes and it is a polygenic inheritance.